Everyone feels safe. All right. What is up? So today has been one of those days. It's been a month, maybe 2 months. A lot of tough conversations in person and over the phone. And the general consensus by most people is like, oh, I don't want to have this phone call. Like, man, this is going to be a difficult situation. There's going to be some heat coming from the other end, some frustrated customers, clients, prospects, whatever it may be. And I notice a lot of people cringe up or they start the conversation. Somebody will outreach when they know it's like potentially a difficult conversation. And it may just be inherently one of those things where it's, man, there's just no way around a difficult conversation. Um, you got frustrations on both sides or on one side or the other. You're trying to call a client or customer back and telling them news that they don't want to hear. You didn't want to have to tell them that. Things just didn't go right. And I think the common response to that or outreach to that, whether it's in person or over a phone call or even in a text message, is that I need to act accordingly and presume that the customer is going to be angry. And I think that's the wrong way to go about the things. I think anytime you're making a call, you should come in objectively and neutrally. So I talk to sales teams a lot about this and different individuals that I work with about setting the tone. And it happens whether you want it to or not sometimes. And when you go in with, even if you're on the phone, poor body language, you got to frown, you're tensed up, and you call in an apologetic manner or a frustrated manner or prepared for battle. And so you answer, you call the person and you sound stiff or hostile, or you sound sad or upset or frustrated. That sets the tone for the conversation. And I think it's important that we just start out neutral. You got to get your mind in the right space. You put on a smile on your face, take a deep breath, relax your body, and confirm within yourself and accept with yourself that this is a conversation to get to the next steps, whatever that may be. It's maybe a discovery conversation. It may be a revision conversation, maybe an update conversation, whatever type of conversation it may be. It's important that you come into it objectively and neutrally. So not subjectively, like that type of person. So I'm going to respond to that type of person. It's more just about, hey, I'm going to relay some information and I want to get that out to the customer. And then you want to absorb the customer, the client, the prospect's response and be open to whatever comes your way. And instead of just preemptively thinking, oh, well, this customer is going to say no, or this client's going to be angry, or this person's going to be really disappointed, you just come in and say, hey, this is Josh Falcon from XYZ, and I'm calling you to update you on X, or I'm calling to get an update on where you're at in your buying process, or calling to get an update on the status of XYZ. And then just allow the customer, client, prospect to go into it. They may start off and be frustrated. Let's just say they're MFing you, they're swearing, they're hostile, they're angry. How do you respond to that? Well, most people want to say, well, hold on, or, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, right? Like backpedaling and apologizing or being steadfast when you should just say, yeah. Tell me more about that. No, I understand. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. Yeah, confirming and that you are listening to what they are saying, right? Because you don't speak to people to then speak again. You speak to people so that you can get a response, absorb that response, and then reply, respond, communicate back effectively, right? Because there's a purpose for this call. And so whether let's give it a scenario here. So I'm calling, I'm having a lot of frustrations with my phone bill account, and I've called 15 times already, and no one has been able to resolve this issue. It keeps happening. Should I call in and say, listen here, I've called in 15 times. This is absolute BS. I'm not tolerating this anymore. This needs to be taken care of now. Or do I call in and I say, I just keep having this problem, and it keeps continuing, and I don't want it to happen to you. Or do I say, so are you aware of what's going on with my account? Could you review that, please? Do you have any notes, anything like that? Can you get up to speed? Let them take a minute and say, so here's why I'm calling. It seems that I've made mention of this multiple times, as you can see, that I've called in several times, and we're trying to address this issue. It doesn't seem like that's getting done. And it's gone on for X amount of time, and I really need a resolution today. Is that something that you can help me with today? Or is there someone else that may be more capable to address the scenario to the point where we get a resolution today? Because I need a resolution today. That's why I'm calling the phone, and I is better suited to handle this type of conversation. And then they say, well, yeah, I am, but I'm not really sure if I can do that today. So let me just look at the account. I'll do something. Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you could review that again, let's just make sure that our focus is to achieve a result today. And I really need this done today. So let's just focus on getting this done right now, or getting whoever we need to get involved to get this handled. And that's something that you're willing to do with me today. And if they say, no, I can't. Okay, well, and I understand that. I respect that. Is there any way that you can get me to somebody else who would be prepared to handle this with me today? Right. And then so on and so forth. But you see how that demeanor and that being objective and being neutral about the situation, clearly defining what it is I expect out of the conversation that I have right now. Whether that's I need it today and this is what I need, that gets clearly communicated. I'm also talking to somebody who may or may not have been involved in this conversation at all, so they need to catch up. So getting hostile, or not speaking clearly about what it is you want and what your intention is typically what leads to more of these conversations that don't get results. And all it does is get people more frustrated or confused. Now, if I don't call in with clear expectations and I lay that out to that person, and then by the end of the call, I just spend my entire time yelling at the person and repeating myself and not allowing them to do their job, I just wasted more of my time. And I just wasted more of their time. So not only now are they like, red alert, this customer's frustrated, they just continue to yell, they continue to talk. I'm just assuming at this point, by the way that they're communicating, they just want to yell, and they want something done, but I don't know specifically what it is, and I'm just kind of worn out on hearing this person. That's typically what happens on the other line. So you're going to get somebody who maybe doesn't have the wherewithal or the skill to be able to move forward and say, hey, you know what, I'm not equipped to do this, let me get you to somebody that is not results oriented. And most people that you pick up on the first time are not results oriented. Hey, how you doing, guys? I see some people jumping on here. Just want to say hi to you. Sometimes I get long-winded on these videos. But the main point about this is we get a lot more in life when we come at things objectively, right? So that means not subjectively, not based on who the person is, but just based on what the actual objective is that you want to achieve. And then clearly communicating that to the other person on the other end in whatever scenario that may be, without frustration in your voice, without sadness in your voice, without disappointment in your voice. Use your words and talk neutrally to whoever that is. And then ask them if they are equipped to help you get the results that you are after. And when are they going to be able to do it? When you want the results done. And these are the things you need to be keeping track of. Yeah, so Adrian said, "Are you talking about my job or motivation?" So I'm just talking about in general. So I have a consulting firm. I'm a business development consultant. I've been in sales since I was 16 years old. And so what I like to do is I like to speak about scenarios that not only apply in business, but they apply in everyday life. And I think that once you realize that people are just people, and the most important thing that we need to address is to clearly communicate what it is we want and when we want it done by. And then ask the person, right? Ask them if they're up for the challenge. Because if somebody says yes to me, I'm most likely in good hands. Somebody says, no, I can't handle that for you. It's not to get mad at them and say, well, why can't you handle this? Isn't this your job, right? That's not important. What is important is you want to talk to somebody that can handle it. And so you say, hey, so who would that be? What is the next steps in your experience or your understanding that I would need to do to get this result today, right now, while I'm here on the phone within the next 30 minutes to an hour? I'm willing to put in the time if you can direct me to the right person. And so the communication is extremely important. So a lot of people get frustrated in life and get bent out of shape because they assume that a conversation is going to go a certain way. They assume that the results that they want are going to happen, which you don't know that until you figure out what you're dealing with or who you're dealing with, or if they can even address that, or if you're even in the right department, or even if that person is even in that frame of mind to hear what you're saying. So you have to get that out of the way first. That's the important thing about every conversation. And you don't do it with an expectation. Are you going to be the one that handles this today? Because if you're not, I need to talk to somebody else, right? That's you telling somebody how things are going to happen. That doesn't work in a communication because it's with two people. Talking to yourself is one thing. Talking at somebody is another thing. But having an open conversation and dialogue with somebody to achieve an objective, and then getting them on your side by clearly communicating what it is you need and when you need it by, and asking them if they are up for that challenge, or they are in that right state of mind, or if that is what they are intent on doing today, or if they're even capable of doing that, is extremely important. So the conversation was, is this the only job that I've done? No, I've been in a lot of industries, been in a lot of different sales positions, from B2B sales to B2C sales, to automotive, to marine, to large corporations. So tech companies, service industries, restaurants, food services, things of that nature. I really tackle anything with an objective because my focus is business development. So, with that said, I've learned how to communicate with people in a more neutral perspective, with a clear communication of what I intend to do on this call, and if they and then asking them if they are prepared to handle that and if they are the right person to handle that. And then I tell them I just don't know, so to let them know, like, I'm open to not knowing, I'm not afraid to not know, and I'm really looking for you to educate me. And a lot of times what that does is it disarms the person on the other line, whether that's a good situation, hostile situation, confusing situation, whatever it is. But that allows them to open up and realize, hey, this person is asking for help. And then they get the opportunity to tell you whether they want to help you or they can or cannot help you. And so I think that's important to start every conversation that way, whether it's in person or not. And then just be very clear about getting to that objective. So, again, moral of the story is, don't start a conversation with an assumption of how that conversation is going to go. Start with an objective, address that objective right up front in that phone call. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, this is Josh Falcone. I am calling you today because I want to achieve X, and I'm hoping to achieve that by X, possibly by the end of this call. Are you open to having a conversation with me about X, Y, Z? And would you be open to, if I can answer those questions or explain the value clearly to you, move in one direction or the other today while you're here on the phone? Is that something that you're open to today? That is how I would start a conversation. And that's just a myriad of reasons. But again, that gets the communication clear and what the objectives are right out of the bat. So I hope this helps you when you go into a situation that maybe you're uncomfortable with. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not know. Tell people that you don't know. Let them know, hey, I don't know, but this is what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to communicate X to you. I'm trying to find out this information for you because once I find out that information, I can go get with somebody who can get me more information to achieve your objective. I want to find out more about what problems you're having in your business or with this solution so that I can find out if I can even help you with the solutions that I have. Would you say that you are 100% satisfied with the solutions you're using now? Would you say there's anything that you would like to change with the services, solutions, etc.? So again, I just went from an outreach call to find out more about a problem to a sales call to find out if someone's interested to a uh, investigation call where I find out if there is a problem and if I can address it, and if I can't, I can get enough information to go take it to somebody else who may be able to address that problem. So again, all that in one conversation by simply asking questions and telling people what my objective is will get you a lot farther and will not create a hostile situation or a confusing situation or a lack of mutual understanding about why you are both communicating, spending your time and your energy with this engagement today. Guys, I hope that's extremely valuable. I know that's a lot, but I think people underestimate the power of clear and concise communication with outlying objectives and coming into it with a neutral position. Tonality should be clear and unbiased and unoppressive and uncompelling at that point. You're just simply communicating, asking questions, finding out if both people are on the same page, establishing objectives, and then moving forward to achieve that objective. Yeah, so I've been in sales and business development for a very long time. I also have a background in marketing and advertising and development. I am not the developer, but I am what they call an elite operator. So operations has always been a big thing for me. I actually do a really great job of connecting values to each other. So if somebody has a problem, I will find them a solution. I will connect those two people together so that they can solve that problem, and I get commissions for doing things like that. And then I do direct sales. I've done retail sales, done wholesale sales, done business to business sales in a myriad of industries since I was 16 years old. And so that's where I get a lot of my background. But it all comes down to communication. Most frustrating, most frustrated or frustrating uh, scenarios or communications happen because someone is not clear and they haven't asked permission to achieve the objective they're trying to achieve. And they're typically talking to the wrong person to achieve that objective. So that's where I get a lot of that. I hope it adds value. I'll continue to keep doing this. I love sharing some of this because a lot of people don't get to experience this if you're not in sales or in a customer facing business. But just in general in life, you can be customer facing all the time and you do the same thing, but you're not really getting results, positive results or productive results. It's because you're not communicating clearly. You're not conveying your objectives, and you're not asking people if they're the right person to be speaking to, or if they're in the right capacity to speak to you about achieving that objective, because they may not even want to do that. And when you do that, you open yourself up to finding out whether these conversations are going to be effective, valuable for one or the other, or both of you. So again, all right, stay live, guys. I really hope that that's added some value today. I hope you go out there and utilize this. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. I like to get back to people and dig into stuff like this. We'll see you.